the entire idea of historical accuracy when making garments or other particular things with reenactors has come up with my friends again. So I decided I would talk about it and kind of show you guys a recreation I did of an Edwardian shawl based on a upload somebody did of a historical pattern. Ironically, that same shawl pattern could definitely be used to make some of the Mandela inspired shawls that have been kind of popular in crochet circles recently. So let's get looking at this. I have been crocheting since before I could drive a car. Let's phrase it that way. And I tend to consider myself relatively well versed in the stitches, even if I walk away from it for years. I have done lots of vintage patterns, antique patterns, and even I, going back through knowing what the hooks would have looked like, being able to translate what that hook is in the pattern from a cellulose hook into a modern equivalent and work through it, still had issues with this pattern having just typos or something else in there. This pattern's only 115-ish years old, and the skills are still actively in use today. But I know for a fact that there were discrepancies besides just my yarn choice and how I was able to construct the shawl based on exact instructions from the time. Now, how does this tie into everything else? Every once in a while, we're going to have those exact instructions, but the individual maker may still have some of their own insight that they need to put in. I decided that rather than following the exact instructions as they were printed, I was going to hold true to the pattern and follow the synchronized pattern-driven stitches to make sure that the repeating patterns of different stitches worked in the shawl. That was my choice. I could have definitely followed it word for word, and the shawl would have still worked. It still would have been a shawl. It would have been great. But it would have been just a little bit different in how some of these rounds went together than how I did it. I can still wear it in that historical manner where it's doubled over. It's a beautiful warm shawl. And it does its job. So my request, I guess, is going to be just keep all of this in mind as you're working on historical projects. We are modern people working with modern materials. We can strive for authenticity. And in some cases, if that's your goal, definitely strive for it. But at the same time, I don't think that it's great for us to be trying to hold everybody to that standard because not everybody has that authenticity as a goal. Sometimes the historical inspiration is just that, it's inspiration. Rather than trying to browbeat somebody in their comments section about historical authenticity, maybe ask what the goal was of the project in the first place. Or if it's not your jam, don't consume the content. That's another completely valid idea. In the meantime, I made my wonderful shawl out of an acrylic yarn rather than a wool. It's the same width as many of the worsted wools that I also have in my stash. It was more accessible for what I was working on, and I love it. My shawl doesn't keep me any less warm for being acrylic versus wool. It's a little bit easier for me to care for, and I just love that I was able to use a historical pattern and have it translate into this completely modern shawl trend and show that things kind of have a through line. So what are your goals when you're working on projects? Are you looking for 100% historical fidelity to a specific time period? Are you looking for something that is inspired by that historical period but is with a modern twist? I'd love to hear about it in the comments section. And in my opinion, both are valid. Both have their place. And we just need to be nice to everybody else if their choice and their goals for their projects aren't matching up with your own. In the meantime, like the video if you found this little rant helpful, and I will chat with you next time. Thank you so much for watching, lovelies. Bye.